Right.
Christmas time. It's coming up. And
Exactly. 2 weeks, man.
I know.
It's going to be awesome.
From today, Mikey's going to babysit so that Kelly and I can
Oh,
go.
yeah. Nice. We're actually, my sister's family is coming in on the 19th, and we're going to do like lunch here and do like Christmas and everything. And then my parents are going to watch Blake while my sister and her husband and her kids and Steph and I and the big kids all go see Star Wars together.
I hope you already bought your tickets.
The theater that I go to is very small, and they
Like the
don't.
back of a Volkswagen?
It is like the back of a Volkswagen. It doesn't do advanced tickets. They're not selling tickets.
Okay.
You can't get them until there's a showtime.
Right.
And
Okay.
so, and honestly, where we are, that movie theater is it's tucked away in the outlet mall, and we're close enough to so many other theater options, and that we've never had a problem going to first run opening weekend stuff at that movie theater, even like Avengers stuff. We've never had a problem.
We always have a problem, even with, but we're also in, Arlington, and even the crappy theater is still
right. We're close. I mean, we're not 30 minutes from AMC 30. And I mean, within probably a 30-minute drive, you've got a good theater in Forney, you've got a good theater, two theaters in Mesquite. Then there's then if you want to go the other direction, there's two theaters in Greenville.
right.
And so, I mean,
So who really wants to go to Greenville?
right. There's a lot of
Sorry, Kate.
better theaters than the one we have here in town that are close enough to make that it's not out of the way to make the drive. So now I get their newsletter on Wednesday every Wednesday their newsletter comes out with their showtimes for the week that will start on Friday. And as soon as I get that newsletter, I will go to the theater and try and get tickets, because as soon as they announce the show times, I will try to get tickets so I have them. But I can't do anything until like the week of is as early as they ever do tickets.
Right. Okay. So since we are obviously talking about Star Wars, and we are dads who geek, now you are just now going through showing your kids the original Star Wars films, but from what I can understand, they already pretty much know.
Yes, they know the story. We've never just had a formal sit down and watched them. And actually, when I put that out on Facebook, our Kevin made a really good point and a really good argument about not showing them anything going in, because they've got enough working knowledge that they actually have more working knowledge than we did going into the original trilogy, and this is their Star Wars.
Yeah.
And so I'm actually not really making it much of a priority to try to get it done, because we don't have the time. And it would be really difficult for us to try to get it done. And it's kind of I want to know that I can do it, or I'm not going to try. It's kind of an all or none thing.
Right.
So I'm okay with them going into it without having seen anything else, because then we can I can show them the other ones and they can get the backstory.
Right.
They've seen bits and pieces of the prequel trilogy on Spike, because Spike does Star Wars marathons all the time.
If they're not doing Rocky marathons,
right? Exactly.
Or Godfather marathons.
And so they've seen bits and pieces of the prequel trilogy, and I don't know how much of the original trilogy they have seen. They do know all of the
They do
relations.
they
They
do
know
know
who.
that they do know that Rocky is Luke's father, and that Luke defeated Apollo Creed in the second in Empire Strikes Back.
Yes, exactly. Um, I got to think. I was like, no, that wasn't. That was Billy D. Williams. Never mind. I was like, did he actually? I was like, no, that's a different one. It's a different guy.
So, Carl Weathers. Carl Weathers.
Yep, right.
I'm just referencing Spike's propensity to marathon.
No, I understand. Well, actually,
So
I don't understand anymore because I don't get Viacom networks on my cable. But
I I don't have cable, so
ugh, it's awful. Um, I wish we
no, it's
didn't.
really not.
No, it's awful that we do. I wish we didn't have cable, but
Once I'm done with school and I'm back to working, we're probably going to get something. Most likely Dish, most likely DirecTV because of football. But
right.
and my although I'm sure you may have noticed, I haven't been as vocal this year about football as normal.
No, but I did think about you. I haven't been very active on Facebook lately, so I haven't seen a whole lot of stuff that's been posted. Unless, like, I've been checking my notifications, and that's about
Right.
it. The last few days, I've been a little bit more active, but I check my messages, and that's really about it because this time of
Please tell
year,
me. Please tell me you saw the Scott Stapp video.
I did, yeah. Uh, but I thought about you Monday's game though.
Yeah, I was watching it, and that that was one of the most unbelievable endings to a game I've ever seen
But yeah,
in the NFL.
I did think about you during when I or Tuesday morning
When you heard
when I
about
heard
it,
about when I heard about Monday's game because I saw it on Twitter. Somebody was like a fan captured uh, the moment the Browns lost or something, and I was like, why is this a big deal? Because I didn't know anything about it. So I played the video, and it's this guy that is behind the goalpost, and he's got his cell phone out recording it, thinking he's recording the game-winning field goal,
yeah,
and records the return. And then he turns around to the crowd, and like there's a dude behind him that's wearing a Browns jersey that just rips it, like Hulk Hogan rips
yeah,
it.
I've heard of that one. I saw one today where the guy cut over to a couple other Browns fans, and they're just cracking up because they're like, I guess because it's like this is the most Browns thing ever.
Right, right. But yeah, and they're like, I can't stand the Browns, and oh my god, it was so funny. It was really funny.
So
Um, but yeah,
so
that was pretty great.
yeah. So going back over to uh, Star Wars, I know that we're both familiar with the Machete Order, and I think that's probably how I'm going to introduce it to AJ. Now, my question for you, as a fellow dad, even though you chose to, I'm not sure how you chose to incorporate Star Wars. When do you think is the right time to show Star Wars to your kids for the first time?
Well,
If you don't want them growing up, like if you want them to be surprised by the big reveal in Empire Strikes Back.
um, we'll see. And here's before I answer that, um, the case against the Machete Order is you actually cost the second reveal, the follow up reveal in Jedi of the fact that Luke and Leia are twins.
Yeah, I know. I just, and I've heard that argument, but I just never felt that reveal was anywhere near.
Oh, it's not. But I I listened to the BBC not BBC, NPR of all places. NPR did an audio drama of all three of the original movies back in the mid 80s.
Right.
And I listened to them recently, and they were good. I enjoyed it. They had they had Mark Hamill in the first two, and they had Billy D. Williams in the in Empire. There was none of the original cast was in Jedi, but the biggest complaint I have had about the entire production was it had no narrator,
Right.
and in lieu of having a narrator, it had really awkward dialogue where they explained what they were doing. Like all of the characters had really awkward expositional dialogue. Like
Hmm.
when at the beginning of Empire, Luke is hanging upside down in the Wampa cave, and he's like, "Ah, my lightsaber. Um, I must focus my energy, and as I reach out, the lightsaber comes to my hand." And it doesn't feel like
So
it's internal monologue. It feels like they're saying all of these things,
so
and
it's first they do a first person narrative that just makes no sense. And
they do, and it's really, really awkward to listen to some of this dialogue. The worst one that just really, I was like, oh my god, this is. I'm glad we're almost done with this. Was in Jedi when he's taken when Vader takes Luke to the Emperor. He says, uh, "There's no need for your shekels. Wouldn't you prefer if they opened and fell of their own accord?" And then there's the sound effect. I'm like, are you kidding me right now? Like, did we really have to explain that?
apparently, yes.
Oh my god, it was awful. And but the worst thing on that I couldn't listen to, whoever they cast as Yoda in Empire
Was not Miss Piggy.
was no, it was so bad I couldn't listen to it. I had
Wow.
to fast forward all that part because it was awful. I couldn't stand it. Um, but as I was listening to it, because it's got a lot of the original dialogue in it, I just kind of I was thinking about the story because without having the visuals, I was able to focus on the story a lot more. And the watching the original trilogy in its entirety is better storytelling than breaking it up by watching 2 and 3 and then coming back and finishing Jedi,
Right.
because the plot holes that were created through the retroactive storytelling of the prequel trilogy
You mean the
become
fact that George Lucas had no idea what he was doing from the get go?
exactly right. They become so much more apparent, because I was listening to it and I'm thinking of the story and then I'm thinking of the prequel trilogy and all of these things, that all of these continuity errors that he created in his own universe by the crappy storytelling in the prequel trilogy. And so that's why I think I appreciate the the Anakin Skywalker narrative of the Machete Order,
Right.
but
Yeah.
the the trilogies work, in my opinion, the trilogies work better as two separate entities of three
Right.
movies.
And
So,
there is one complaint that I've always had about the Star Wars movies. The baddest Sith is in the worst Star Wars movie
oh yeah, absolutely,
because
absolutely.
like Darth Maul was it. Like
Oh
the
yeah,
emperor,
Darth Maul was
the
great.
emperor doesn't like the emperor doesn't even come close to how bad Darth Maul was.
Oh yeah, and if you read up on any of the expanded stuff that was written about Darth Maul, he really was an amazing character. The
Yeah.
stuff in the Clone Wars when his brother finds him still alive, with a robotic like spider bottom half,
Yeah,
and
I've
then
heard about it mostly from Sam Witwer, who voiced.
Right, right.
Who voiced him in
It's
the
actually
Wars.
was really good because you got the rematch between him and Obi-Wan, and
Right.
there's a few novels about Darth Maul, and they're like he's a really interesting character, and it is a shame that he is so underutilized by being killed in that one movie.
Yeah.
Uh, and he's the Boba Fett of the original trilogy, or I mean of the prequel trilogy.
Right. Yeah.
He's got the least amount of screen time, but the character that everybody loved.
Yeah. So
So
going back to the original question, what
right,
age do you think is the right age to introduce like that they'll understand the gravitas of the situation without, you know, because like I for one, I loved Star Wars when I was a little kid, but I don't remember not knowing that, you know, Darth
right.
Vader was Luke's father.
I don't remember either. That's just been something I've always known. I don't remember having that moment. Um, honestly, I would say if they don't show an interest in it themselves just by things that they see at the toy store or at Walmart or whatever, and commercials and just general exposure, and they don't ask about it, I would say 5.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm thinking. I'm also now see the one thing I am thinking is that I can watch the original over and over and over again for the next 5 years, let AJ get excited about it, and then
Right, right. Well,
once
I have a
he'll have because you know how kids are. They if they like it, you're going to be watching that movie 1,500 times a week.
yes, I can
Truck,
reenact
truck.
Racing Stripes for you from James. And I can reenact every one of Mater's tall tales.
Is that
Um,
truck, truck, or is that something else?
well, no, just trucks are general is a general term,
Oh, okay,
and we've moved beyond truck. We're just trucks now.
okay.
And he specifically asks for things now, but no. Disney did these shorts that ran between shows on the Disney Channel, and it was Mater's Tall Tales. They're like 5 or 6 minutes long, and it's Mater telling this story of some adventure that he had to Lightning McQueen, and they all end the same way, where about 2/3 of the way through it, it cuts back to them, and Lightning's like, "That never happened," and he was like, and Mater's like, "Well, shoot, man, don't you remember? You were there too." And then it cuts back to the story, and all of a sudden, Lightning is interjected into the story, and he has no idea why he's there or anything, and then like ridiculous things end up happening to him. Like the first one, Mater's telling the story that he was a daredevil and that he did all these stunts and everything, and the biggest stunt he ever did was jumping Carburetor Canyon, and Lightning's like, "You that never happened." He was like, "Well, you were there too," and then it's cuts back, and they're at the top of Carburetor Canyon, and they light the rocket, and Lightning shoots down the ramp, and he's going over, and then it cuts back, and he's like, "Well, what happened?" And Mater's like, "You didn't make it." Um,
Now, is it actually Larry doing this, or
yes, it is Larry the Cable Guy. It's not Owen Wilson,
no?
but
Of course not.
it is Larry the Cable Guy.
Well, because to be fair, Owen Wilson, I love Larry the Cable Guy's comedy, but he needs to stand up because his movies tend to.
Yeah, the best thing that he's ever done besides doing the blue collar comedy was Mater.
Yeah.
But no, it is Larry the Cable Guy, and he does say "get her done" one time.
Well,
Um,
you know, I know that like back in '04, Get Her Done was his big trademark, but like I think that he's long ago since transcended that.
oh
Like
yeah,
unlike Jeff Foxworthy, who will always be, you might be a
you
redneck.
might be a redneck, exactly. And Bill Engvall will forever be "Here's your sign."
Yep. And then the group of them will always be, I believe.
Right, right. So I have a friend that has a toddler
Okay.
that I believe is 4 now, and he is obsessed with Star Wars. But I don't know how organically that happened because as a parent, and I have a unique perspective because I was halfway done with my oldest and got a new one.
Right.
Because James was 9 when Blake was born. Almost, or he may have been 10 by the time Blake was born. Um, but so yeah, I was halfway done, and then had another one, and so I've got 10 years child child raising, and then a new one. So I know all the stuff that I did wrong, for lack of a better way to put it, the first time. Um, and the situation's different because with Lil, we separated when she 2 weeks after her first birthday. So in a way, like I missed out on Lily's childhood.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, she's only 9, but Steph will ask me questions about Blake, and oh, is this normal? And I'm like, I honestly don't remember because James is the only one I went through that with. And
Right.
that was so long ago. I really don't remember because when Lily was doing all this stuff, she didn't live with me anymore. And so,
Yeah.
but parents have a tendency with little kids to project
Oh,
and
me, it's not a tendency. It's a full out. I want you to be a Baltimore Ravens fan. And I want you to love Batman, and I want you to love Star Wars.
exactly. And so,
like I know full well.
Since you are the one that gets to choose his wardrobe and choose the things that he is exposed to, you end up projecting what you want, and you project your interests onto the child. And I think that's what's happened. It doesn't feel like this little boy got so obsessed with Star Wars organically. I think it was a lot of influence on his parents' part.
Right.
But yeah, I think 5 is a good age to approach the the trilogy, and we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
About what's the first thing you remember, like the first shocking thing you remember from television or from movies or anything. And so I think at 5, because I was 7 or so when I saw the Transformer movie for the first time, the good one, and
the first one was Shia LaBeouf?
They're the one without Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah, Chris, you were 7. The first one with Shia LaBeouf. Shia LaBeouf is like 10 years your junior.
That's true. That's true. So yeah, I remember like the first big memory I have of a movie making me have a reaction like that was the death of Optimus Prime. And like I said, I was like 6 or 7 years old. And so I think at around 5, you're able to uh, uh, relate to the characters and connect with the characters,
Right.
and be invested enough that when you get that reveal at the end of Empire, it's going to mean something.
Right. And the other concern that I have about it is that, it's kind of like the whole Santa Claus thing, is that if you aren't the one to come forward with it at some point, they're going to find out about it from somebody else.
Yes,
before they can find out about it organically.
Right.
So that's the other concern is, you don't want your kid to be, you don't want your kid to have that ruined for them. Because, I mean, we've all been there. We've all been there when something's happened and it got ruined for us because, these days people post about a TV show 5 minutes after it's aired.
Oh, dude, like as it's airing.
Like the whole Glenn thing. Like I was actually because I don't have cable. I was actually trying to insulate myself from it, and somebody just came straight out and said it on Facebook. I was like,
Oh, I didn't even have to wait for Facebook. I went to school
"Oh, I
Monday,
know. You
and
told
like
me about that."
four of my kids were like, "Oh, dude, Glenn died." I'm like, "Okay,
And
whatever."
no, he didn't.
No, and I went back and watched the episode because I was like 3 or 4 episodes behind at that point. I went back and I
Right.
watched the episode and I called it exactly how it happened. I went back the next time after I'd watched it, I was like, okay, first of all, I'm caught up, and I watched it, and it was a very cleverly shot scene. So well done them, but this is what happened, and I was exactly right. Um,
Right.
but
Well, and I hear that it actually went much with comics, and so, but but I haven't. Like I said, I'm actually a couple seasons behind. Like the last thing I saw, the governor just lost his eye. So
oh wow, yeah, yeah. Well, I've bailed on it. I've quit watching the show.
but like
I turned off the season pass on my DVR, and so
yeah,
I'm not even watching it anymore.
but like one of the shows I loved was Sons of Anarchy, which is very
Right,
much not a show that I'm going to watch with AJ once he can actually start interacting because
right.
yeah, but like major character death and like I'm in Austin and I'm a little bit behind, so I'm like, okay, I can't watch it. Somebody posted about it right when it happened. I was like,
Yeah, no, I understand. So there's two things that you brought up that actually I was wanting to address at some point. But since it is the holidays, you brought up Santa Claus.
yeah,
Are you pro Santa Claus?
yes, I am. I'm
Okay.
very much pro Santa Claus. Um, I'll give you my reasons quickly, and then you can say what you want to say. I believe, I don't believe that kids should be focusing solely on getting gifts, but I believe that there's a certain magic about Christmas that Santa Claus provides that you know I want my kids to have. My sister and her husband are very much anti Santa Claus, but I want AJ to have kind of this magic thing, and I think it kind of just helps to create a spirit of Christmas.
I will not disagree with that. Because that is the only part of the concept that I am in favor of. Um, I am anti Santa Claus because
Besides the fact that you're a
uh,
Grinch,
right. Besides that, um, and it's funny. I've always had an issue with it, and I couldn't put my finger on what my actual issue was. I was like, "There's something inherently wrong with this system," and I could not for the life of me figure out, like, put my finger on exactly what my issue was and why I had such a problem with it.
you read foul language, didn't you?
Do what?
No, you don't read webcomics. Never mind.
No. um I watched a Hallmark Channel movie last year called The Santa Suit, and it starred Kevin Sorbo.
Who's gone into doing mostly Christian movies now.
Right. So yes, TV's Kevin Sorbo, as an executive that has lost the meaning of Christmas and is everyone sees him as Santa Claus. Like Santa puts a whammy on him, and everyone sees him as Santa Claus. And just this crazy man that's dressed up as Santa. They don't see him as the CEO of this toy company. They see him as this crazy old Santa Claus.
Right.
And he gets a job as a mall Santa. And it's funny because it's like Quantum Leap, where he's running around in his suit, like his business suit, through the whole movie. And he's sitting up on the chair and kids are sitting in his lap and everything. But when he looks in the mirror, he sees Santa Claus. And everybody else sees him as Santa Claus. And he is his world perspective is changed by this one little girl that keeps coming to see him, but she won't talk to him. She just
Right.
stands creepily in the background and watches all the other kids, but she never actually comes up. And he keeps trying to connect with her and everything. And then he finally talks to her and talks to her mom, and they finally put the finger on why I have a problem with the concept of Santa Claus. Is their Santa Claus only works to a certain level because there is an inherent level of disappointment associated with Santa Claus, because kids are told to tell Santa what they want for Christmas, and parents have to work really hard, especially if they don't write a letter or whatever. If they go to like a mall Santa or whatever, you have to work really hard to find out what your kid told Santa they want. And if you're not able to follow through with that, it kind of takes away from the magic,
Right.
because, well, I was told if I was good and I asked Santa for this, I was going to get it. So was I on the naughty list
Right. And
because I
that's
didn't? And what
and
did
that
what did I do wrong? And then you have the parents that barely can give their kids anything.
right. And that's the reason that my sister and brother-in-law didn't want to do it, is that they didn't want their kids to feel like they were naughty,
Right,
or that they
exactly. Because kids have no concept of cost and whatnot. They're like, oh, I want this thing, because
yeah.
that's just what they want, and because the world is black and white to a kid. And I want that. Santa is magical and he makes it in his toy shop and he can bring that to me. And they have no concept of the fact that it costs money. And so, but what they pointed out in this movie is, um, the he was talking to the girl's mom about her not believing in Santa Claus, and he's like, um, isn't the magic of Santa important? She goes, what's more important, the magic of Santa or feeling like Santa plays favorites and
Right.
because he never comes to your house?
Right. Now, I will say that, Santa for us, I mean, but I was 7, almost 8 years old when, you know, so there was really, like, I really only had two years, like, that I can really say, yes, Santa Claus, because, like, I don't remember anything, like, I don't really remember many Christmases before, like, I don't remember Christmas before I was 5.
Right.
So it was 5 and 6 were the two big Santa years for me. And then then somebody at school said something, and I talked to my parents, and you know,
Right.
so
Well, James and Lily both know, and which creates a new problem, because if we do choose, because we have to decide next year
right,
if we're gonna do this. Um, if we decide that's what we want to do, um, we now have to answer the question, why doesn't Santa bring anything for Bubba and Sissy? Which I
well,
actually I'm lucky enough to have an out, because the answer to that question is Santa brings it to their house.
right. Well, see, I now see, we lived with my youngest sister, who's 10 years younger than I am.
Right.
Like, we still got a big gift, and we just, like, as the older brother and sister, we just my sister and I always
Just
just
played
kind of
along.
played along,
Right.
that this is what Santa brought us, brought me a Sega Genesis, and brought my
Right.
sister, whatever. And
Yeah.
then I moved away when I was 15, and so it became Santa brought me my gift down in Texas, and my
Right.
sister got whatever.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um,
I honestly don't remember. I remember get like one of the big gifts I remember getting as a kid was an N64,
Yeah.
I didn't spaz out like that kid on YouTube, but I do remember when I got my N64, but I don't remember if my parents gave me that or if Santa gave me that. I really don't remember.
I
Um,
would imagine, I would hope that by the time Nintendo 64 came out, I hope it was your parents, because
like
Nintendo 64 was, we were in
I,
high school when that came out.
are you sure?
Yes. Nintendo
Okay.
64 was high school. Because my brother got it when I was 15 and I got a stereo.
Okay. Maybe it wasn't a 64. I thought it was a 64.
It could have been a Super Nintendo.
Um,
Super Nintendo would fall within the
it may have been the
mixed
Super
range.
Nintendo then.
The
It may
first
have been a Super Nintendo.
now the first
I
one
remember
that
it was a gaming console. I do
yeah.
remember that.
Now the
Um,
last big gift that was supposed to be from Santa for me but I knew I knew about it was the original Nintendo. I knew I knew what Santa was by then, and I almost would for my sister. I was like, because we got it, and I said, "Thank you, Santa, wherever you are."
nice. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Uh,
But so okay, so we've gone over some infant stuff, but you and I have children who are about the same age as far as James
yes,
and Nicole.
are basically the same age.
Like when's James' birthday? Are you there? Did we cut out?
Oh, there. I muted my mic. Sorry.
Oh, so when's James' birthday?
February 10th.
Okay, and he was born in 03?
Yes.
Okay, so he's actually a month younger than, well, he's
He'll
a couple
be.
weeks.
He will
He's a
be.
couple weeks younger than Isaac,
He
and
will
a few
be
months older than
12.
Nicole.
He will be 12 in February.
Oh, okay, so he was born in 04.
Was it? Hold on. Give me a second.
Yeah, he was born in 04
Yes,
because I
it
was
was
there.
04. Yeah, it was 04. Yeah,
Well,
I know how old. I know how old they are. That's
well, because Nicole's a few months older, and Isaac's a year older.
So yeah, James will be 12 in February, and he is in 6th grade.
Right. So they're essentially
They're essentially the same age. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're actually now starting to get to that age where we're starting to, like Big Bang Theory has always been okay because they, for the most part, the entendres are high level enough that kids don't get it.
Right.
And she just Nicole, I think, mostly enjoys Sheldon.
Right.
Who's pretty much asexual, so it doesn't really matter.
Right.
But last fall, I think it was, I started about a year ago. I was watching Gilmore Girls,
Right.
and Nicole wanted to watch it, and it was one of those. And like I can actually tell you now that the best way until you have the talk is you can watch while she's in high school. Once she gets out of high school, your kids need to be cut. If you're not ready for them to deal with adult issues, high school, it's all about getting into college, and that's something they can watch, and the relationships aren't to a level of like Dawson's Creek High School.
Right. Exactly.
But what shows like The Flash. Nicole loves The Flash, but I'm not sure that she'd really, that the Arrow might not be too dark for her. I mean, she doesn't really like the Arrow anyways, but
right.
what kind of shows like these that that we're like us being huge fanboys, I will already tell you, I won't let Nicole watch the Netflix Marvel shows.
Oh no!
Because
I've told James that too. I've told James that because he asked me about Daredevil, and I even called Donna after because I watched the first. I still haven't even finished Daredevil because I didn't like it. I'm halfway through.
I watched it over the past couple of days. I like it. It's just it's not an action show. It's a drama that's got some action in it.
I got to episode 6, which everybody tells me that's the turning point of the show, and that it really gets good after episode 6. And it's not that I've disliked it. when it dropped, and everybody that marathoned it in that first weekend
They kind of built it up so much that
they
it was
did.
hard
By the time I got to watch it, I was like, this is not the greatest show ever, like people are trying to make it out to be. But I've been on episode 7 for months now because I just haven't finished it.
Yeah.
But I watched the first couple of episodes and I called Donna and I was like, do not let him watch this because this is an R-rated show.
Yeah.
This is would be on a premium network. This is not even an FX show. This is
I would actually say it's an FX show because it doesn't because there's no nudity.
That's true. That's true.
There's some language, but all FX. But like, it's really not any worse than Sons of Anarchy. It might be a little bit more gory, but when you've got Nip Tuck on FX, you can't really talk about.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, I was like, this is not Agents of Shield. This is not Captain America. Like,
no, this isn't the fun stuff that Marvel has been putting out in the movies.
Right.
Because while it's been PG-13, it's still been pretty light fare.
Well, yeah, and PG-13 is such. I hate the rating system because PG-13 is so subjective.
Well,
Because
PG-13, you range from just above PG to just under R.
exactly.
And it's really hard to tell where it falls in that.
Exactly, and it can be PG-13 because of. Okay, perfect example. Spare Parts, PG-13 movie because of subject matter and 4 swear words.
Right.
But that I would almost make that like take out one of those swear words.
Yeah, it's PG.
And I would not argue that that's a PG movie.
But like
it's the content. It's the fact that there is on-screen drinking.
Yep.
And they're dealing with the immigration issue, and so that's what makes it PG-13. The Marvel movies, the somewhat inappropriate things that the inappropriate dialogue from Tony notwithstanding,
language. Did you really just say that?
Right. And the gratuitous, we have to see the dudes with their shirts off.
And Black Widow and her.
Right. Those are PG-13 movies because explosions.
Yeah.
And
but then you get like a movie like, and this goes back a ways, but Save the Last Dance. The subject matter's pretty adult. They drop an F-bomb, and I'm sitting there thinking, my sister is 13. I wouldn't want her seeing this movie.
Right.
Like, this was when I was 23 or whatever.
Right.
Like, this isn't PG-13.
Yeah. PG-13 is such a subjective rating. It's ridiculous. But then, and it's funny because October Sky has 3 times as much language in it as Spare Parts, and it's PG.
Yeah.
But it's 1999 PG.
Well, that's because we all got a little bit more sensitive since 1999.
Exactly, because go back further than that.
We didn't have the internet.
Look at Ghostbusters. The heroes smoke on screen.
Oh yeah.
I
can do you better.
Really bad language.
Newsies.
I don't remember Newsies enough. But in Ghostbusters,
Christian Bale is
smoke
smoking
on
through the entire movie in a Disney movie.
There's really bad language. There's really suggestive dialogue, and Sigourney Weaver's costuming alone. That's a PG movie.
Oh, I can do you better. I can do you even better. James Bond, 60s and 70s. There were a number of times that when I was doing my 25 Days of Bond, there were a number of times that we actually, like, sometimes it was kind of veiled, but there were a number of times that you actually see nipple in that. First PG-13 movie of James Bond, GoldenEye, 1995.
Right.
So, I mean, it's...
Yeah. No.
Although I also know that, like, back then, the rating system was even more subjective because you actually had the X rating back then.
Right. Um, okay, so Daredevil, like Marvel Netflix shows, absolutely not.
Yeah, like
And
Jessica
I've
Jones.
made that.
I'll be watching Jessica Jones, but from what I gather, it's a pretty dark show as well.
Oh
So.
yeah, like I'm more intrigued for Jessica Jones than I am for finishing Daredevil, because I want to see I want to see the Doctor be a sociopathic rapist. Because
Well,
I
I
mean it's
will.
David Tennant, and I'm like I have to see David Tennant be this evil character.
Right.
Um,
Um, I
because the
will say.
evilest
I
I've
will
ever
say.
seen David Tennant be was Barty Crouch Jr.
Right now, I will say. For Daredevil, I need you to get to episode 11 because episode 11 just kind of how episode 11 ended just kind of blew me away. Or
On
maybe it was
Daredevil.
episode 10. Yeah, on it was episode 10 or 11.
Okay.
The end of it, I was just like, oh crap. And like I can like yeah, it's been long enough that I could say stuff with, but I try not to because I don't like people
Right.
spoiling stuff for me.
Yeah.
But no, like so, but like there's shows out there. I know that like you've had discussions about Walking Dead with your kids, and Nicole. Like there's a lot of shows I don't have to worry about because Nicole just has no interest.
It's just not interested. Well, I think.
But like Arrow
I
versus Flash, I mean,
Okay, James. I Donna asked me about Arrow when it hit Netflix because they didn't have cable. They just now got cable. Donna asked me about Arrow after season 1 hit Netflix, and which it actually hit around the same time that Daredevil did, so it may have been in the same conversation. But I told her, I was like, it's dark. It's not Chris Nolan dark. But it's a darker show,
and it does have adult subject matter.
Right. I was like, this is not a superhero, a traditional superhero show. This is a lot more grounded. And I was like, honestly, I don't know if he's going to be into it anyway,
Right.
because it's not a superhero show in its traditional sense. It's not Oliver Queen running around in a flamboyant hoodie beating up bad guys. This isn't Smallville.
Right.
And so,
although Smallville in certain ways it got like the setting got fluffier, but the subjects did get darker as Smallville went along. But Smallville started off as Dawson's Creek with meteor rocks.
It did. It really did. But I told her, I was like, I don't necessarily have a problem with him watching Arrow, but I don't think he's going to be into it.
Right.
Flash, I was like, yeah, absolutely, watch the Flash. Flash is great. There's nothing I don't have any problem with anything going on the Flash.
No, because there was one conversation that they had about when Barry was dating what's her name in the first season?
Linda.
Yeah, about his speed and about what that might mean.
Right. That was the raciest episode of the whole season.
Yeah. Well,
and
the talks. There was one time that Eddie said something about him and Iris hadn't had relations in a couple weeks.
Right. But even
which was just him being stupid because you don't like. I'm married to my wife, and I still wouldn't say that. I wouldn't talk about her dad. Talk to her dad about that kind of stuff. That was just it.
Right. Well, but I mean, other than the dialogue, I mean, look back at the first three seasons of Arrow. Yeah. You had Huntress and Laurel and Sarah, all three in a love scene with Oliver with their shirt off.
Yeah.
And I believe Summer Glau as well. They had a love scene. I don't know if what visually was there.
I can't. Unfortunately, at the end of season 2, with her in Deathstroke regalia, kind of ruined my visual of Summer Glau for the rest of the series because it was just
Right.
so wrong. Like it just
Right. Yeah. And then you have Felicity and Oliver hooking up at the end of season 3, and you have their love scene in
yeah,
Nana Parbat. And so like there was Arrow has more visual adult content than
right.
Flash does. I think the most that Flash did was I think Linda took her shirt off when they were making out on the couch, and Felicity's shirt caught on fire.
Yeah.
I think those are the only 2 instances of um, showing anything.
And
Uh,
they both had bras on. Like because
right,
Felicity says,
exactly,
"I'm
and
glad I wore a bra today."
it's kind of and it was really a blink and you missed it
Yeah.
moment. I mean, there were, I mean, with Sarah and Laurel and Huntress, I mean, it was,
Yeah.
yeah, they had a bra on, but they were on screen in a bra for an extended period of time.
Right.
Um, and so,
So yeah, that's why I would say,
and no, I wouldn't have a problem with, and again, with Arrow, Arrow's such a different kind of show. He is into it. He's watching them both. He's caught up on Arrow. He caught up on Flash, or no, he caught up on Arrow up to Flash, and now, and I told him, I'm like, okay, you're ready to start watching Flash, but you need to watch them together.
yeah.
And
Well,
I'm like,
you
watch the
do.
Flash, watch Arrow, watch Flash, watch Arrow. It's like don't marathon Flash and then marathon Arrow. It helps if you watch them together.
Although I will say that unlike now, I definitely I stand by what I texted you earlier that this crossover episode was the true crossover.
Oh yeah, it was. It was a 2-part crossover. The other one was 2 standalone
Yeah.
episodes of we're gonna go to this other city for 42 minutes.
Yep. And like
Um,
the only reason you have to kind of watch is that when the characters show up, they make references to what's going on in the other
right, and that's
show.
what I told him. I was like, now when you start getting to the end of the respective seasons, because they aired things kind of out of order, it it's hard to follow the timeline for each show.
Yeah.
But if you marathon one and then you marathon the other, you're going to kind of spoil yourself on a few things from the other show, and it just works better, and you understand what's going on if you know what the status quo of each show is when
Right.
they do happen to cross over.
Now, I will say that the one problem with last year with Arrow and Flash is that they kind of messed with the order of when each show was airing.
They did, and it especially near the end, and it was like it was really weird.
Once you get past I think it was like once you get to a certain episode of Flash, it was like an Arrow. It was like, okay, now you can just go back and forth one and one. But like right after Christmas, you had to watch an episode of Arrow, 2 episodes of Arrow in a row before you could watch the next episode of Flash.
Yeah, it did get kind of convoluted. Now, I referenced the show earlier, but Agents of Shield, especially this season. Last season, not so much because last season was kind of off the rails.
I got to the winter finale of last season, or the fall finale of last season, and that's where I'm stopped at.
Season 1 of Agents of Shield, I wouldn't have a problem with.
Right.
I wouldn't have a problem. James wouldn't be into it because it's a superhero show without superheroes on it. But he wouldn't be into it, but I wouldn't have a problem with it. Season 2, I probably wouldn't argue too much. This current season, though, it's pretty dark, and they went to some places, and
right.
I'm not. I don't know. It's enough to make me pause. I'll say that.
Right.
Um, but other kind of like genre shows, I he's interested in Doctor Who. James is interested in Doctor Who.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with Doctor Who.
No, Doctor Who never, like, especially the T Davies
Oh yeah.
years. I mean, they're just the I
It's a family show. I would consider it a family
I
show.
don't I just don't. I've said it before, and I'll continue to say it. I just don't like the darker tone that Moffat has
That
taken with.
Moffat, yeah. I don't have a problem with the Doctor. He's not watching Torchwood. If
I
he
haven't
starts
watched any of
asking about
I haven't
Torchwood,
watched any of Torchwood, so I couldn't. I've watched the. That's not true. I've watched the pilot episode of Torchwood, but
yeah, Torchwood was the. Well, see, you had Doctor Who, and then you had the Sarah Jane Chronicles, which was
right,
like the kid show,
yeah,
and then you had Torchwood, which was the adult show.
right. Well,
So it spanned the whole.
Even Peter Capaldi and Stephen Moffat have both kind of spoken out about BBC's scheduling of Doctor Who, and saying that you can't have it be starting this like because of whatever was on before Doctor Who was supposed to come on. You can't have it be starting this late because this is supposed to be for families.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Um, well, it's you mentioned Big Bang and some of the
Entendre.
innuendo and whatnot.
Yeah.
There are. It's funny because we're getting to the point now where I can tell them that it. I need to turn this off,
Yeah.
and so there's been episodes of Friends that I've had to turn off. Um,
And
there.
I've got to say, like, I know that we're coming at it from a different perspective because we're about the same age that they are now when it came out. Like,
Right.
because it came out in 1994, in the fall of '94. We were 13.
Right. But again, there's some episodes of Friends that I've had to turn off.
Oh yeah, no, I wouldn't let
And
Nicole watch Friends with me.
last weekend, Steph was out of town with Blake, and I what we were the three of us were here, and I was watching How I Met Your Mother. I was watching
Yeah,
How I
we
Met Your
had to.
Mother, and it was The Naked Man,
Oh,
and I pushed it as far as I could, as far as I was comfortable with, and I was finally like, "No, I can't. I gotta turn this off." And James is like, "Is it getting too much?" I was like, "It was too much a while ago, and I let this go further than it should have." Um, but
that's what she
yeah, I
said.
was like, "I love this episode, and I want to watch it so bad," but I was like, "I have a 9-year-old in the room. I can't watch The Naked Man."
Well, I mean, we've had the talk. We've had the talk with Nicole.
I've had the hygiene talk with James. Um, I'm avoiding like a big wimp the other half of that talk. Um,
Well,
if nothing else,
obviously we've had to have more talks with Nicole
well,
because
right,
because
because
there's a different.
biologically speaking,
She goes through more stuff.
right, like Mother Nature will tell you when you need to have that conversation with a female. But other than uh, things rising,
Yeah,
there
and
have
voices
been
getting deeper.
right. There haven't been there hasn't been any reason to approach that um, with him. Though Donna has asked me a few times. She's like, "Please explain to your son why he has an erection." And I was like, "Why do you not want to do it?"
Nope. Oh, yeah, I already know I'm going to be the one having that conversation with AJ.
So yeah, it's fun. I've avoided it. I may try and have the talk with him over the Christmas break, though.
But like, part of it was also that we were getting to a point like she liked watching Scrubs, but there's just so many times with JD and Elliot about their personal stuff that we couldn't watch it with her because it was like I mean, that was part of the reason, but it wasn't the main reason. The main reason was just, we were just getting to a point where it was time to have the talk with her.
Right. Please stop telling me when you have nerdy sex.
But
last time she was in town, we took her apple teenies and poured them on our good parts.
But
I've seen that episode of Scrubs I don't know how many times. God, that episode was amazing.
But no, it's tough because, like I don't want her growing up. I mean, I want her to be.
Oh no, I know. I believe me, I know. It's gonna get worse because you knew her as a little kid.
No, actually, well, not as a little kid. I knew her as a kid.
Right, but with AJ,
oh yeah,
you are with him every day. You have been with him literally since he blinking stepped into the sun, and
realized that there was more to see than could ever.
There is more to see than they can ever. Wait, wait, that's the Lion King. But
it's still true.
I daily, I will tell you this daily. Blake is 2. And it happened tonight. Not a day goes by that I don't look at him and go, how do I have a person now? Like, how is he a person now? Because he asks for things, and I remember when he spent all of his time just laying around and rolling around, and now he runs all over the house, and I can't wrap my mind around how he used to literally be half the size he is now,
right?
And it's only been 2 years, and it seems like yesterday. And he talks like I can have a conversation with him. He sent me to bed the other night. You'll love this. This is great. So he's figured out that he can jump off the furniture, and he jumped off the chair, and I was like, Blake, don't do that again. And he said, no, don't. You go to bed. I was like, excuse me? He said, you go to bed. And he pushed me down the hall to the bedroom. And then he ran off giggling. And so I went back to the living room, and he was back in the chair standing up. And then he plopped down when he saw me. I was like, Blake, Micah, don't you jump off that chair. He's like, you go to bed. And he pushed me down the hall, and he came in the bedroom, and he like hit the bed. He's like, you lay down right here. And so I laid down, and then he ran off giggling again. So I went back in the living room, and he's standing up in the chair, and he plopped down. And I was like, don't jump off the chair. He's like, no, don't. You go sleep. And he grabbed my hand and dragged me down the hall. He's like, go to bed. You sleep. And made me lay down in bed again. And it became a game after a while. But yeah, he made me go to bed Monday night. And then Tuesday night, he was in bed with Steph watching truck videos or something on her phone. And I laid down, and I was just kind of messing with him. And I was like, I'm going to get you. He's like, no, get you. It's like, I'm going to get mommy. He's like, no, get mommy. And then he looks at me. He goes, go sit down. And he pointed to the door. I was like, what, you want me to go sit in the living room? Yeah. I was like, you want me to leave? You leave. I'm like, okay.
So he's a mama's boy.
He's a jerk is what he is.
I was calling AJ. AJ, like, AJ's a butthead sometimes. And like, I know
it's
like, and in this case,
there's a website that is based on a book called The book is called Toddlers Are Assholes. It's Not Your Fault. And the website is toddlersarassholes.com. And you'll learn when you have a three-nager that toddlers are the worst people in the world. They're just awful human beings because they don't care about anything but themselves, and they'll cry about anything because there's a Tumblr and it's like why reasons my toddler is crying, and it's like what reasons my toddler are crying. I put the pajamas he asked for on him.
I didn't put the
And
pajamas he asked for on him.
right, or I told him he had to wear shoes to go to school, or um, just things like that. And
Yeah.
they will cry and they will throw fits about the tiniest thing. It's like his sippy cup is empty. He will throw his sippy cup at me and ask for more. Like they're awful, terrible little humans. um, but yeah, just it's just wait. What is he? 9 months old?
He'll be 7 months old tomorrow.
7 months old. Okay. Uh, yeah, like enjoy this. You got about 6 more months because really once he starts walking, it's all downhill from there.
He's going to be walking before I know it because he's already trying to stand.
Once they actively start walking, it's all downhill from there because then they're going to start talking and then they're going to start climbing on everything and then it's awful.
He already kind of does that. Like now, like you'll be holding him and he'll be trying to like I'll move stuff off the couch. Like I'll have him on the couch sitting next to me. I'll move him off, like I'll move stuff off the couch, and then he'll try and grab the next thing and keep moving, and I to the point of and like I'll be holding him and I'll be trying to feed him, and then he'll be like, "Nope, I'm gonna try going over here now." So he's already kind of doing that. Like I know it'll be worse when he can run, and he's already got my attention span. Like it'll be, "Oh, we're feeding you. Oh, look, TV," and my head is gonna turn. My head's gonna turn all the way around, away from the spoon that you're trying to put in my mouth.
Yep, and then you put it in his ear, and you're like, oh no, I've been there. The best thing I can
figure out how he gets food on the back of his head when we never.
Oh, yep, yeah. I will tell you this: once he gets a little more self-feeding, those baby food pouches are amazing.
Okay.
Yeah, trust me, those baby food pouches are amazing, and they even make spoons that you can attach to the top of it.
Yeah, we've got sort of a spoon that attaches to stuff now. Like we got it for giving him like some rice cereal, like when he first started solids.
Right.
You put the mixture in and you squeeze it out, and
yeah. So yeah, those baby food pouches, Blake still eats them. It's really handy, and especially in the car. Blake will say, "I'm hungry," and I'm like, "Well, you want a pouch?" And he'll ask for a pouch, and he asks for them by color. And so yeah, those baby food pouches are amazing once he gets to that point, because it's handy when you need to be. When you can't sit and feed them, it's really handy because they can self-feed with those. And early on, you have to make sure they don't squeeze them, and because it's kind of like a Capri Sun pouch of baby food. So you have to be careful that they don't squeeze it all over the place, but they're amazing. I wish I'd had them for the other two because it's amazing. So,
but yeah, like one of the things that happens now is that he's getting to the point where he'll start holding the bottle, but himself when we give him a bottle,
right.
But he's also kind of last night he was like the past 2 nights he's been grabbing the nipple on it and spraying himself in the face. And so you try and get away from him so that he stops spraying himself. He's crying because he's spraying himself. Then he's crying because you took the bottle away from him.
Yep. It just gets worse.
So,
and
then you get teenagers.
Right. Then you get teenagers. So, well, let's wrap that up. We're way over an hour. So
not way, just about 15 minutes over.
Okay. So yeah, this has been fun. We'll come up with some more topics and
I think
make this a semi-regular thing.
Yeah.
So
it's a whole lot easier to coordinate 2 people than it is 4.
Exactly. It really is. Yeah. So, well, I hope everyone has enjoyed this first episode of Dads Who Geek, and I will leave you with my my parenting tip. Remember that the weight limit on the diaper box is the weight of your child, not how much the diaper can hold. This is important.
And I will leave you with my parenting tip. When you get teenage girls, just lock yourself in the bedroom and pray that they'll eventually go away.
That's true.